Ina, hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Very good.
It's a great day.
Nice to see you again.
You have an amazing apartment, perfect for a good interview.
Thank you.
So let's get started.
Let's do that.
You're an author, and your first book is here on the table called Love of Fate, which was published 2015, and this was like more personal story. But now you're working on a second book called War of Work, Silent Weapons of Management. And I have a few questions about this book and this conversation you're aiming to start. So, 87% of workers are disengaged according to a Gallup study. Does this mean that we are living in a society of depressed, unhappy people at work?
Or it's even worse than that. It's 80% of workers, they say that they are stressed at work. 26% feel burned out. 95% of all the HR executives in the world, they say that burnout and disengagement are like the two major crises and challenges for 2017. When you strip the term engagement from this red tape descriptor, what you actually find is that we're talking about motivation, that we're talking about inspiration, that we're talking about enthusiasm to do your job. It's about stirring up a positive change. It's about emotional commitment. Engagement is to work like love is to relationships. Mm-hmm. So to say that 87% of workers in the world are disengaged is like saying that 87% of all the couples in the world are not happy together.
What about Work Human or Reshaping Work, these conferences which all revolve around humanizing the workplace? So people are in good hands. Right. Does it bring anything to the conversation?
Well, you're absolutely right. The entire leadership enterprise, they're all very busy right now with trying to find a solution, right? So you have Gallup, you have Deloitte, they're all coming together and forming all these conferences and events where they are discussing these issues. However, what strikes me is that the people who are mostly affected by these challenges, so the people who are burned out and disengaged, those are nowhere to be found at these events. It's like trying to perform open heart surgery on a patient who's not even in the room. And that's something that I would like to change. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote the War of Work. And I wrote it from the perspective of the people who are feeling the burnout, who are feeling the disengagement. It's not a book that caters to the leadership enterprise, but there's a lot to be learned from it for the management.
You've went through an episode of burnout some years ago. Tell me about it a bit.
Well, I came to work one morning, and things were just business as usual, starting up my computer, getting an email, trying to read it, and you know what? Nothing. I couldn't compute. I couldn't understand what I was reading. The label they gave me was burnout, right? And my doctor told me that burnout is actually a kind of a cumulative effect of a chronic stress that you've been feeling from too much work or from being stressed at work. Well, to be honest, to this day, I'm not really sure whether I agree with this definition. Because, I was busy. I worked a full-time job and I was in parallel studying an executive master of science. And I was just about to graduate when all of this happened. But I never felt really stressed about these things. I felt in control until I didn't.
You were thinking you were in control?
I thought I was in control.
Until that morning?
Until that morning. And it came out of nowhere, out of the blue. I started to wonder about so many things in life. Why did I feel the way I felt? Why had I experienced burnout? And how could I prevent it in the future? And well, everywhere I looked and everywhere I asked, I didn't really find a satisfying answer. And that's why I started my research.
Disengagement at work really has an impact on personal life and actually leads to consequences like overweight issues, depression, lack of social life, lack of personal life. Because you go home after work, I imagine, and you cannot get it out of your head. right? That's the feeling.
I tracked a number of factors, such as disengagement, depression, overweight, and suicide rates. And however, the majority of analysts, they tend to look at these issues in isolation. It's not commonly accepted or acknowledged that they're somehow interrelated. So we've heard of the domino effect, but we rarely think about how events in our lives are the cumulative effect of one falling domino. As such, disengagement has a direct effect on our lives, on our personal lives. It has an effect on our mood, on our depression rates, on obesity, on suicide rates. And this is what I have found throughout my research.
I have here your previous book, Love of Fate. So if I imagine this is your new book, World of Work, Silent Weapons of Management. Very interesting title.
Yeah.
What I take out of the conversation till now is that the objective will be to raise awareness and also provide some ingredients for various entities and actors in society, like how can we really go deep in a conversation about this and really do some meaningful change, not just leadership talks and stuff. So what will be in the book?
War of Work speaks to the 2.6 billion people in the world who are disengaged at work. First of all, it aims to bring awareness about the current situation and about the urgency of engagement, because generally we tend to think that this is some kind of a management discipline or some kind of thing that's only relevant for HR. We don't tend to think that engagement is relevant to us. In our modern current society, we are forced to juggle concepts such as change, transformation, performance management, flexi time, and so on. All of these principles, they are supposedly trying to make our lives better. They're trying to make us more prosperous. However, reality shows that they are in effect damaging to us. There is a very simple solution to all of this. And this simple solution is the key conclusion of the book.
Winners don't quit their jobs, they disrupt it. So, what does this mean actually?
This means that I believe change will not come from another framework. 75% of all the change initiatives, they fail. Yet we continue to do the same thing and expect different results. The time has come to include everybody in the conversation. It's time to make change not happen in a vacuum, in some conference or in some closed room where all the important people show up. I would like to see this change happening from the bottom up. And I don't believe that we need to leave our jobs for it. As soon as we do, we will move on with the problem. We'll take it with us to the next employer. And things will not have changed because the organizing principles are similar in every single organization.
If we want really to fast forward all of this, I think my feeling is that this message of yours really has to get to the CEOs. Because at the end of the day, they make the decisions, right? And probably with their board. So if they know about this, all of this research you've done and all of this, your message, probably they can do something. Because I think most CEOs are good people and are interested in having happy people, right?
Right.
So if I'm a CEO of a big company, and let's say a good number of my people are burned out, maybe I don't know about it, what should be my message? Like, what should I do? So what is your message to me to do immediately?
Well, for every 8 disengaged employees, there's one manager out there who is wondering, well, what should I do with the situation? How can I help the crisis? And it is often thought as a failure on their part, right? Disengagement is often seen as a failure on a management part. And half of all companies in the world actually think that their executives do not have what it takes to drive a culture of engagement. the message to the CEO would be not so much about trying to develop a new framework or a new methodology. It's not so much about trying to find a relief for the situation, but focusing on the bigger picture and on a more preventative way of working with the situation, as well as getting to the root cause and not so much addressing the symptomatic or the symptoms, but finding a more systematic way of addressing this.
Ina, thank you for this interview, and I think I can say in the name of this huge number of people, thank you for trying to be a seed of change in a society where so many disengaged people at work live. It is shocking, I have to say. I feel very empowered to do something about this. Because you are passionate about it and you transmit amazing energy. Best wishes for the future.
Thank you, Johann.
Thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much.